Before the world knew the names of great heroes, before legends were carved into stone, there was a ship that dared to sail beyond the edge of the known world. A ship carrying the bravest warriors of ancient Greece, searching for a treasure that many believed was impossible to find. The Golden Fleece. Tonight, as the waves whisper and the stars slowly awaken above the ancient seas, prepare to drift into the forgotten age of gods, monsters, and heroes. Close your eyes, relax, and listen to the legendary journey of Jason and the Argonauts, a tale of courage, destiny, friendship, and the impossible quest that changed Greek mythology forever. The boy who was destined to become a hero. Long before the great cities of Greece rose with marble temples and shining towers, there was a time when the world was filled with mysteries, ancient kingdoms, and whispers carried by the wind. It was an age when gods watched from the heights of Mount Olympus, when heroes walked among ordinary people, and when destiny was believed to be written in the stars. In the peaceful land of Thessaly, surrounded by green valleys and quiet rivers, there lived a young boy named Jason. He was not born into a simple life, even though his childhood began far away from the royal halls where he belonged. Jason was the son of Aeson, the rightful king of Iolcos. But before Jason could ever sit upon the throne of his ancestors, a shadow fell over his family. His uncle Peleus, a man hungry for power, had taken control of the kingdom and stolen the crown that belonged to Aeson. Fearful that the young heir might one day challenge his rule, Peleus searched for a way to remove every threat to his power. The old prophecies had warned him that a man wearing only one sandal would bring great change to Iolcos. So when whispers reached him about the child of Aeson, Peleus knew that destiny could not be ignored. To protect the newborn prince, Jason was secretly taken away from the kingdom. He was carried through forests and across silent mountains until he reached the home of the wise and noble centaur, Chiron. Far from the troubles of kings and wars, Jason grew up beneath the peaceful trees of Mount Pelion. The gentle sound of rivers, the songs of birds, and the wisdom of his teacher shaped the young boy's heart. Chiron was unlike any ordinary teacher. He was a creature of two worlds, half man and half horse. But his knowledge reached beyond what most humans could understand. He taught heroes before they became legends. Under his guidance, young warriors learned not only how to fight, but also how to think, how to show mercy, and how to respect the balance of nature. Every morning, as golden sunlight touched the mountains, Jason trained with a sword and learned the skills of battle. He practiced with the bow, studied the ways of healing, and listened carefully to the stories of ancient heroes who had walked the earth before him. But Chiron also taught him something more important than strength. He taught him that true heroes were not measured only by victories in battle. A hero was someone who could carry responsibility, someone who could protect others even when the path ahead was filled with danger. Years passed, and the young boy slowly became a courageous man. Jason grew tall and strong, with a calm spirit and a heart that longed to discover the truth about his past. One evening, as the sun disappeared behind the mountains and the sky became painted with shades of orange and purple, Chiron looked at Jason with thoughtful eyes. "The time has come," the wise centaur said softly. "You have learned all that I can teach you. The world beyond these mountains is waiting." Jason looked toward the distant lands below. "For many years, I have wondered who I truly am," he replied. "I feel that there is a path waiting for me, but I do not know where it leads." Chiron smiled gently. "Every hero begins with a question," he said, "but only those brave enough to search for the answer discover their destiny." The next morning, Jason left Mount Pelion and began his journey toward Iolcos, unaware that the road ahead would change the history of Greece forever. The journey was long and filled with uncertainty. He crossed rivers, walked through forests, and traveled along forgotten paths where few people dared to go. During his travels, he carried only his courage, his memories, and the lessons given to him by Chiron. One day, as he approached a powerful river swollen by the rains, Jason saw an old woman standing near the water. She looked weak and unable to cross. Many travelers passed her without stopping, but Jason did not continue walking. He offered his hand and helped the woman safely across the dangerous river. What Jason did not know was that the old woman was not an ordinary traveler. She was the goddess Hera, who had disguised herself to test the kindness of the young hero. The gods often watched the actions of mortals, and they remembered those who showed compassion when no reward was promised. Hera looked upon Jason with interest. She saw that beneath his strength was a gentle heart, and she knew that this young man's journey would soon become one of the greatest adventures the world had ever known. As Jason continued toward Aeëtes, fate quietly moved around him. The forgotten prince was returning, the stolen throne was waiting, and somewhere beyond the distant seas, a golden treasure rested in a mysterious land, waiting for the hero who would dare to seek it. The age of Jason had begun. The ship Argo and the greatest heroes of Greece, the journey of Jason toward Aeëtes, was only the beginning of a destiny that would soon echo across the ancient world. When he finally arrived at the gates of the kingdom, he stood before the city he had once lost, unaware that every step had led him closer to a dangerous confrontation. The people of Aeëtes looked upon the stranger with curiosity. He was a young warrior wearing a leopard skin over his shoulders, carrying a shining spear, and walking with the quiet confidence of someone who knew his purpose. But there was one detail that caught everyone's attention. He wore only one sandal. When the news reached King Aeëtes, fear entered his heart. The old prophecy had returned to his memory. The man with one sandal had arrived. Aeëtes welcomed Jason with a false smile, hiding his fear behind words of kindness. He knew he could not openly attack the young hero, because the people would never accept such an act against the rightful heir. Instead, he created a challenge that he believed no mortal could survive. "There is a great treasure hidden far beyond the seas," Aeëtes told Jason. "The Golden Fleece of the magical ram rests in the distant land of Colchis. Bring it back to Aeëtes, and you will prove yourself worthy of your royal blood." Jason listened carefully. He did not know that Aeëtes expected him never to return. The Golden Fleece was not an ordinary treasure. It was a symbol of power, protected by unknown dangers and guarded by forces beyond the reach of ordinary men. The journey to find it was considered impossible, but Jason accepted. He knew that a hero's path was not created by choosing the easiest road. It was created by facing the impossible. To complete such a quest, Jason needed more than courage. He needed companions worthy of such a legendary journey. Across Greece, messages were sent to the greatest heroes of the age. From distant lands and hidden valleys, warriors, explorers, and champions answered the call. The first to arrive were men whose names were already known in songs and stories. There was Heracles, the strongest warrior alive, whose incredible strength had already become the subject of countless legends. There was Orpheus, the gifted musician, whose melodies were said to calm wild animals and touch even the hearts of the gods. There was Castor and Pollux, the famous twins known for their skill and bravery. There was also Atalanta, the swift and fearless huntress whose abilities rivaled the greatest warriors. One by one, heroes gathered on the shores of Greece, each carrying their own stories, their own dreams, and their own reasons for joining Jason's quest. Together, they became known as the Argonauts. But before they could cross the endless seas, they needed a ship powerful enough to carry them into the unknown. The greatest shipbuilders of Greece began their work. Under the guidance of the goddess Athena, a magnificent vessel was created. It was larger and stronger than any ship that had sailed before. Its name was the Argo. The ship was built from the finest wood of Mount Pelion, and a sacred piece of timber from the ancient forests was placed within its structure. Many believed that this magical wood allowed the ship to understand the voices of the gods and guide the heroes through their darkest moments. When the Argo was finally completed, the heroes gathered beside the sea. The waves moved gently beneath the ship, as if the ocean itself was waiting for the great adventure to begin. Jason stood before his companions and looked upon the faces of the men and women who had chosen to follow him. He knew the journey ahead would be filled with storms, monsters, and unknown dangers, but he also knew something else. No great legend was ever created by those who remained safely at home. As the sails of the Argo rose toward the sky, the heroes began their voyage beyond the familiar shores of Greece. They sailed toward lands no Greek had ever seen. They sailed toward mystery. They sailed toward the Golden Fleece. And they sailed into the pages of eternal legend. The Golden Fleece and the journey beyond the known world. As the Argo moved away from the shores of Greece, the heroes watched their homeland slowly disappear beneath the horizon. The familiar mountains faded into the mist, and the endless blue sea stretched before them like a vast and mysterious world waiting to be discovered. The Argonauts knew that their journey would take them beyond the places known on ordinary maps. They were leaving behind the safe waters where fishermen traveled, and entering a realm where legends lived, where strange creatures wandered, and where the will of the gods could change the fate of men in a single moment. Jason stood at the front of the ship, feeling the cool ocean breeze against his face. Behind him stood some of the greatest heroes Greece had ever known, each prepared to face whatever dangers awaited them. The first days of their voyage were peaceful. The Argo moved smoothly across the waves, guided by skilled sailors and the wisdom of experienced warriors. At night, the heroes gathered beneath the stars, sharing stories of their homes, their battles, and the dreams that had brought them to this impossible quest. But the sea was never truly quiet for long. Their first great challenges came when they reached distant islands surrounded by unfamiliar waters. Some islands welcomed them with kindness, while others tested their courage. The Argonauts encountered dangerous shores, powerful storms, and strange lands where ancient secrets remained hidden. Each challenge reminded them that the Golden Fleece was not simply a treasure waiting to be collected, it was a prize protected by destiny itself. The heroes soon reached the land of the Mysia, where an unexpected tragedy struck their journey. One of their companions disappeared, and the Argonauts were forced to continue without him. Though their hearts were heavy, they understood that the path of heroes was often marked by loss and sacrifice. Their voyage carried them farther east, toward lands where Greek ships had rarely traveled. The waters became more mysterious, and the stories they heard from distant sailors became more frightening. They heard whispers of terrible creatures, powerful kings, and magical forces guarding the path to Colchis. Beyond the edge of the known world, they discovered the entrance to the dangerous waters of the Bosporus. There, the Argonauts faced one of the greatest dangers of their journey. Two enormous cliffs stood on either side of the sea passage. Ancient sailors called them the Symplegades, the clashing rocks. They were said to crash together with unstoppable force, destroying any ship that attempted to pass between them. Many believed no vessel could survive, but the Argonauts were not ordinary sailors. With wisdom and courage, they released a small bird before attempting the passage. When the rocks moved together, the bird barely escaped, revealing the brief moment when the cliffs separated. The heroes waited for the perfect time. Then Jason ordered the Argo forward. The ship rushed between the enormous stones as the cliffs thundered around them. The heroes held their breath as the waves crashed and the rocks closed behind them. For a moment, it seemed the entire world had stopped. Then, the Argo emerged safely on the other side. The heroes had passed through a place where countless others had failed. Their confidence grew, but they knew the greatest challenge still waited ahead. Far beyond the seas lay the mysterious kingdom of Colchis, a land of ancient magic and forgotten secrets. There, near the shores of the distant eastern world, rested the Golden Fleece. The fleece came from a magical golden ram, connected to the gods themselves. It shone brighter than sunlight and was believed to possess incredible power. But it was guarded by a fierce dragon that never slept and protected by forces that no ordinary person could overcome. As the Argo sailed closer to Colchis, Jason looked toward the distant land rising from the horizon. He had begun this journey to reclaim his rightful place, but he was about to discover that the quest for the Golden Fleece would demand far more than bravery. It would test his loyalty, it would challenge his heart, and it would reveal that even the greatest heroes sometimes needed the help of fate itself. The Argonauts had crossed the unknown world. Now, They were approaching the greatest trial of their lives. The trials of the Argonauts and the wrath of the gods. As the Argo approached the distant shores of Colchis, the heroes felt a strange silence fall over the sea. The gentle waves that had carried them for many days seemed to slow, and the wind whispered through the sails, as if warning them that they were entering a place unlike any they had ever known. Colchis was a land of mystery, where ancient forests stretched beyond the mountains, and rivers carried stories older than human memory. The Argonauts had traveled farther than any Greek expedition before them, but they soon discovered that reaching the kingdom was only the beginning. The true trials were about to begin. When Jason and his companions arrived on the shores of Colchis, they were welcomed by King Aeëtes, the ruler of the land. But his welcome was not filled with kindness. The king was powerful, proud, and suspicious of strangers who arrived seeking the greatest treasure in his kingdom. Jason stood before the king and spoke with respect. "I have traveled across the endless seas to seek the Golden Fleece," he said. "I do not come as an enemy. I ask only for the chance to prove myself worthy." King Aeëtes looked at the young hero carefully. He knew the Golden Fleece could not simply be given away. It was a symbol of his power, protected by ancient magic and watched over by forces beyond human understanding. So he created a series of impossible tasks. "If you truly desire the Golden Fleece," the king declared, "you must first complete the challenges I give you." Jason accepted, though he knew these trials were designed to destroy even the strongest warriors. The first challenge was to yoke two enormous bulls that belonged to the king. These were no ordinary animals. Their bodies were covered with bronze, and flames burned from their mouths whenever they breathed. Even the bravest warrior would have feared standing before such creatures. The Argonauts watched as Jason approached the mighty beasts. The ground trembled beneath their heavy steps, and smoke rose into the air. Yet Jason remained calm. He remembered the teachings of Chiron. Strength alone did not make a hero. Wisdom and patience were just as powerful as a sword. With courage and careful movements, Jason managed to control the fierce bulls and prepare them for the task. But the second challenge was even more dangerous. Jason was ordered to plant a field using the teeth of a terrible ancient creature. The king knew that these teeth held dark magic. When planted in the earth, they would transform into armed warriors ready to destroy anyone standing nearby. As Jason completed the task, the ground began to shake. From the soil rose a terrifying army of stone-like warriors, carrying weapons and filled with anger. The Argonauts prepared for battle, but Jason remembered that rushing into conflict was not always the path to victory. Using intelligence rather than force, he created confusion among the warriors. The magical soldiers turned against one another until the battlefield became silent. Once again, Jason had survived. But these victories did not happen by chance. The gods themselves watched the events unfolding in Colchis. Some supported Jason, while others viewed his quest with suspicion. The gods of ancient Greece were powerful, but they were also unpredictable. Their emotions could bring blessings or disasters, depending on their desires. Among those who watched closely was Hera. She remembered Jason's kindness when he helped her while she was disguised as an old woman. Because of that act, she continued to guide him from the shadows. But other forces were not so generous. The path of the Argonauts was filled with dangers created by jealousy, pride, and the anger of powerful beings. Jason had passed the king's challenges, but the greatest obstacle still remained. The Golden Fleece was hidden deep within the kingdom of Colchis. A magical dragon protected it, and no warrior had ever succeeded in taking it. As night covered the land, the Argonauts gathered beside their ship. They looked back on everything they had survived, and wondered what fate had prepared for them next. The journey had taken them beyond the known world. They had faced storms, monsters, and impossible tasks. But soon, they would face the most powerful force of all, the mysterious power of destiny. The Kingdom of Colchis and the Daughter of the Sun. The Kingdom of Colchis stood beneath a sky unlike any the Argonauts had ever seen. The land was ancient and mysterious, surrounded by dark forests, powerful rivers, and mountains covered in morning mist. To the heroes of Greece, it felt like they had entered a forgotten world, where magic still lived among the trees, and where the voices of the gods could be heard in the wind. After completing the impossible tasks of King Aeëtes, Jason knew that his greatest challenge was still ahead. The Golden Fleece was close, but reaching it would require more than strength and courage. It would require the help of someone who understood the hidden powers of Colchis. That person was Medea, the daughter of King Aeëtes. Medea was unlike anyone Jason had ever met. She was known throughout the kingdom for her wisdom, her knowledge of ancient secrets, and her ability to understand the mysteries of nature. She was a priestess connected to the powerful forces of magic, and many believed she carried the gifts of the gods within her. But behind her reputation was a lonely heart. Although Medea lived in a royal palace surrounded by wealth and power, she often felt trapped by her father's ambitions. She dreamed of a life beyond the walls of Colchis, a life where she could choose her own path. When Jason arrived in her kingdom, fate quietly brought their lives together. The goddess Hera, who wished to protect Jason, guided the events that followed. She knew that the hero could not complete his quest alone. The Golden Fleece was guarded by forces too powerful for any single warrior. One evening, as the golden light of the setting sun touched the palace of Colchis, Medea saw Jason for the first time. She had heard stories about the stranger from Greece. She had heard that he was searching for the Golden Fleece, and that he had completed the impossible challenges of her father. But when she looked upon him, she saw something different. She did not see only a warrior. She saw a man who carried responsibility, a man who treated others with respect, and a man whose journey was guided by something greater than personal glory. Jason also noticed something unusual about Medea. She was not simply a princess of a distant kingdom. She was someone with intelligence, courage, and a deep connection to the hidden forces of the world. As the days passed, Medea faced a difficult choice. Her father, King Aeëtes, wanted Jason to fail. He feared losing the Golden Fleece, and believed the Greek hero was a threat to his power. But Medea felt a growing connection to Jason. She knew that helping him would mean turning against her own family, and leaving behind everything she had ever known. The decision weighed heavily on her heart. Late at night, beneath the quiet stars, Medea walked through the gardens of Colchis and listened to the sounds of the sleeping kingdom. She wondered whether destiny had brought Jason to her for a reason. The ancient stories said that even the gods could not always control the paths of mortals. Sometimes, a single choice could change the future of entire kingdoms. Finally, Medea decided to help him. She approached Jason and revealed the secrets needed to complete his final challenge. She explained how he could survive the dangers surrounding the Golden Fleece, and how he could approach the guardian that protected it. "Courage has brought you this far," Medea told him softly. "But courage alone will not be enough. You must also use wisdom and trust." Jason promised that he would never forget her help. Together, they prepared for the final step of the journey. Beyond the forests of Colchis, hidden beneath ancient trees, waited the sacred grove where the Golden Fleece rested. The treasure that had brought heroes across the endless seas was finally within reach. But between Jason and the prize stood the final guardian, a creature feared by all who knew its name, a dragon that never slept. As the moon rose above the kingdom of Colchis, Jason and Medea moved toward their destiny. The greatest moment of their quest had arrived. The Golden Fleece was waiting, and the world was about to witness a legend that would be remembered for generations. The dragon who guarded the Golden Fleece. The night was silent as Jason and Medea entered the ancient forest of Colchis. Above them, the moon shone through the branches of towering trees, casting silver light upon the hidden path. The air was cool, and every sound seemed louder than before. The movement of leaves, the distant call of unknown creatures, and the gentle footsteps of the heroes as they moved closer to their final challenge. Deep within the sacred grove stood the treasure they had traveled so far to find, the Golden Fleece. For years, it had rested among the branches of an ancient tree, shining with a light that seemed brighter than the stars above. It was not simply a piece of golden wool. It was a symbol of divine power, a treasure connected to the world of gods and legends. But no one could claim it, because the guardian was always watching. The dragon, Ancient stories spoke of the creature with fear and wonder. It was said to be a beast unlike any other, born from magical forces, and created to protect the sacred treasure. Its scales were stronger than iron, its eyes burned like fire, and its enormous body could wrap around the entire grove. Most terrifying of all was the fact that it never slept. While ordinary creatures rested beneath the darkness of night, the dragon remained awake, protecting the Golden Fleece from anyone who dared to approach. As Jason and Medea entered the grove, they saw the creature for the first time. The dragon rose from the ground like a living mountain. Its massive body moved between the trees, and its golden eyes opened in the darkness. A deep roar echoed through the forest, shaking the leaves and causing the earth beneath their feet to tremble. Jason reached for his sword. Every instinct told him to fight. He was a hero. He had faced impossible tasks, crossed dangerous seas, and battled enemies who seemed impossible to defeat. But Medea stopped him. "Do not fight the beast," she whispered. "Some enemies cannot be defeated by strength alone." Jason remembered the wisdom he had learned from Chiron. A true hero knew when to use a weapon and when to use understanding. Medea prepared a powerful enchantment, using her knowledge of ancient magic. She gathered sacred herbs and whispered words, known only to those who understood the hidden forces of the world. Slowly, she approached the dragon. The creature watched her carefully, its enormous eyes following every movement. The forest became completely silent. Then Medea raised her hands and released the magic she had prepared. A peaceful mist surrounded the dragon. The creature struggled at first, moving its powerful body and shaking the earth. But slowly, the ancient beast became calm. Its fiery eyes began to close. For the first time in countless years, the guardian of the Golden Fleece felt the touch of sleep. The dragon lowered its head onto the ground, and the forest returned to silence. Jason looked at Medea with amazement. He understood that without her help, the quest would have ended there. Together, they approached the sacred tree. The Golden Fleece hung before them, glowing softly beneath the moonlight. Jason reached out his hand and touched the treasure that had brought him across the world. At that moment, he felt the weight of the journey behind him. He remembered the peaceful mountains where he had trained as a child. He remembered the heroes who had joined him. He remembered the storms, the dangers, and the sacrifices made along the way. The Golden Fleece was not only a treasure, it was a reminder of everything they had overcome. Jason carefully removed the fleece from the tree and held it close. The impossible had been achieved. But their victory was not without consequences. King Aeëtes would never allow the treasure to leave his kingdom peacefully. The Argonauts had succeeded, but now they had to escape from Colchis before the king discovered what had happened. The return journey would be more dangerous than the voyage that brought them there. As Jason and Medea hurried back toward the waiting Argo, the first light of dawn appeared over the distant mountains. The Golden Fleece was finally in their possession, but the sea ahead was filled with storms, enemies, and challenges they had not yet imagined. The heroes had won the treasure. Now they had to survive the journey home. The escape across the endless seas. The first rays of sunlight appeared over the kingdom of Colchis. As Jason and Medea returned to the shore where the Argo waited, the Golden Fleece rested safely in Jason's hands, shining like a piece of captured sunlight. After countless dangers, impossible challenges, and a journey beyond the known world, the heroes had finally achieved what many believed could never be done. But their victory came with a heavy price. The kingdom of Colchis would not remain silent for long. King Aeëtes soon discovered that the Golden Fleece had disappeared. His anger spread throughout the land like a powerful storm. He gathered his soldiers and ordered them to pursue the Argonauts before they could escape across the sea. Jason knew they had only moments before the danger reached them. "Raise the sails," he commanded. "The sea is our only path now." The Argonauts quickly prepared the Argo. The great ship that had carried them through storms and unknown waters began moving away from the shores of Colchis. Behind them, the sounds of pursuit grew louder. The soldiers of the king followed along the coastline, determined to recover the sacred treasure. The peaceful journey home that the heroes had imagined was now replaced by a desperate escape. The wind filled the sails, and the Argo rushed across the waves. Jason stood at the front of the ship, holding the Golden Fleece while watching the distant shores disappear. He knew that the hardest part of their adventure was not over. The sea itself seemed to challenge them. Dark clouds gathered above, and powerful winds began to rise. The once calm waters transformed into enormous waves that struck against the ship. The sky became filled with thunder, and the heroes fought to keep the Argo from being swallowed by the endless ocean. But the ship was not an ordinary vessel. Built with the blessing of the gods, the Argo endured the fury of the sea. The heroes worked together, each using their own skills to guide the ship through the violent storm. Even the strongest warriors understood that nature itself was a force greater than any mortal. After many days of travel, the storm finally passed. The sun returned, and the Argonauts continued their journey across unfamiliar waters. But danger followed them wherever they went. King Aeëtes refused to give up. His ships searched the seas, hoping to capture Jason and recover the Golden Fleece. The Argonauts had to choose new paths, travel through unknown regions, and avoid those who hunted them. Along the way, they faced many trials. They passed through dangerous waters, where monsters were said to hide beneath the waves. They encountered strange lands where ancient mysteries waited. They sailed beneath skies filled with stars, wondering whether they would ever see Greece again. Through every challenge, Jason learned what true leadership meant. At the beginning of the journey, he had been a young hero seeking to prove himself, but now, he had become a leader responsible for the lives of everyone who followed him. He understood that courage was not about having no fear. Courage was continuing forward even when fear was present. Medea remained beside him throughout the journey. She had left behind her homeland and her family to help Jason complete his quest. Though the path ahead was uncertain, she believed that destiny had brought them together. Finally, after a long and exhausting voyage, the outline of Greece appeared on the horizon. The heroes looked toward the familiar shores with emotion in their hearts. They had left as explorers, seeking a legendary treasure. They returned as legends themselves. The Argo had crossed unknown seas, defeated impossible challenges, and carried home the Golden Fleece. But the story of Jason and the Argonauts was not only about a treasure. It was about friendship, sacrifice, courage, and the choices made when the world demanded greatness. As the ship reached the shores of Greece, the heroes stepped onto land once again. Their journey was complete, yet the songs of their adventure had only just begun. For generations to come, people would remember the brave souls who sailed beyond the edge of the known world. They would remember the ship called the Argo. They would remember the Golden Fleece. And they would remember Jason, the hero who dared to chase a dream that others believed impossible. The eternal legend of Jason and the Argonauts. The shores of Greece welcomed the Argonauts with golden sunlight and gentle waves. After years of danger, uncertainty, and countless trials, the heroes had finally returned home. The Argo rested quietly upon the shore, its wooden body carrying the memories of a journey unlike any other. The Golden Fleece had been found, the impossible had been achieved, and the names of Jason and the Argonauts had become forever connected with one of the greatest adventures ever told. When Jason returned to Aeëtes, he was no longer the young man who had left in search of a lost destiny. He had crossed unknown seas, faced creatures of legend, and stood against challenges that would have broken ordinary men. He had become the hero that the ancient prophecies had foretold. The people who once knew him only as the forgotten son of a stolen king now looked upon him with admiration. Stories of his journey spread throughout Greece, carried by travelers, poets, and sailors who repeated the tale beneath the stars. They spoke of the mighty ship Argo that sailed beyond the boundaries of the familiar world. They spoke of the heroes who stood together despite their differences. They spoke of the courage required to face dangers that had frightened generations before them. But above all, they spoke of the lesson hidden within Jason's journey. The quest for the Golden Fleece was never only about claiming a treasure. It was about transformation. When Jason first began his voyage, he was a young man searching for his place in the world. He believed that becoming a hero meant proving his strength and defeating impossible enemies. But the journey taught him something deeper. A true hero is not defined only by victory. A hero is defined by the courage to continue when the road becomes difficult, by the ability to trust others, and by the willingness to sacrifice for something greater than himself. The Argonauts were remembered not because they faced no fear, but because they faced fear together. Each hero brought something different to the journey. Some carried strength, some carried wisdom, some carried skill, some carried hope, and together they created something far greater than any individual could have achieved alone. The story of Jason and the Argonauts traveled through countless generations. Around fires, in royal halls, and beside quiet seas, people told the tale of the legendary voyage. Children listened with wonder as they imagined the great ship sailing beneath the stars. Warriors remembered the bravery of those who crossed the unknown. Dreamers found inspiration in a story about reaching beyond what seemed possible. Even the gods of ancient Greece became part of the legend, reminding people that destiny often moves in mysterious ways. A simple act of kindness, a moment of courage, or a choice made in a difficult time could change the entire course of a person's life. The Argo itself became a symbol of exploration and adventure. It represented the human desire to discover what lies beyond the horizon. It reminded people that the greatest journeys are not always the ones that lead to distant lands. Sometimes, the greatest journeys are the ones that reveal who we truly are. And so, beneath the endless sky and the eternal stars, the legend of Jason and the Argonauts continued to live. The waves that once carried their ship still whispered their story. The winds that filled their sails still carried their names. The Golden Fleece remained a symbol of dreams, pursued with courage. Long after the heroes were gone, their adventure remained, because legends do not disappear. They sleep quietly in the pages of history, waiting for someone new to discover them. And tonight, as the ancient seas become calm and the stars shine above, the story of Jason and the Argonauts sails once more into the imagination. A story of heroes, a story of destiny, a story that will forever journey beyond the edge of the known world.
you.